Hello and welcome to Campaign Trail Showcase. Today we're playing a mod called 1936 March on Washington. This is a mod that's not very well known, but definitely deserves more recognition. And it basically imagines a world where the United States of America descends into fascism in 1936. So as you can see, there is a content warning with this mod that of course is going to extend to the video as well, because there is generally racism, ableism, other bigotry, because it depicts the United States descending into fascism, along with the violent and regressive realities of such an ideology. So, just confirming that content warning, now we can actually read the description. America's Overton window, so neatly centered on the ideas of conservative capitalism, was shattered by the Great Depression, the global economic downturn in 1929, which threw the nation's political scene into chaos. Outside the peaceful resolution of the Bonus Army, Coolidge's third term proved to be a disaster, sacrificing millions on a cross of laissez-faire capitalism. The Democrats lacked a strong figure to unite themselves around and proved divided to act as a meaningful opposition. So I'm guessing for whatever reason, in this timeline, FDR isn't able to become a political player for whatever reason. So it wasn't much of a surprise when Jacob Coxey Sr. and the Progressive Farmer Labor Alliance, so that would be a very left wing, I think, for the American public at the time, narrowly clinched the presidency in 1932, the height of the Great Depression. The reactions were instantaneous. Progressives cheered, liberals wagged their fingers, and conservatives clutched their pearls. And Gerald C. McGuire sent a letter to retired Marine Smedley Butler that would change the course of American history forever. Now, Smedley Butler, in real life, he was quite a pacifistic figure, and this mod, I think, does take some creative liberties in imagining how he would act in this timeline. So the Progressive Farmer Labours were elected on a platform of nation-spanning public works, unemployment relief, of course expanded workers' rights, but their tiny numbers in Congress resulted in them having to compromise with liberal Republicans and Democrats. So what that means is that the government couldn't get much done, which of course would have led to huge unpopularity and from the public as well as from the business elite. And you can see in the shady backrooms of wealthy hotels a plot was being cooked up by those opposed to the PFLA and their left-wing agenda. Capitalist generals, conservative politicians, and fascists, calling themselves a National Emergency Committee, began their takeover of the American Legion, drumming up already existing anti-socialist sentiment to push in the direction of a more dedicatedly militant group. So they were going to use the Legion to overthrow President Coxey and replace his administration with one that was much further to the right. So this is going to be the coup that begins the descent into fascism. So they need someone to lead them in the prospective coup, and the person they decide on is Smedley Butler. He was resistant at first. The somewhat disappointing outcome of the Bonus Army had rebuilt his respect for the religion, but it had also caused him to distrust the wealthy political establishment. After a persuasive meeting with the plotters, the man was finally convinced, albeit reluctantly, to run for the position of National Commander of the American Legion, which he won, allowing for the NEC to finally set their plan for a coup in motion. Months of speeches and rallies, combined with a concerted campaign of bribery and intimidation behind the scenes, came to a head on July 2nd, 1933, when a crowd of thousands of veterans set off on a laborious two-day march from Harrisburg down to Washington, D.C., demanding the removal of the crypto-socialist Coxey. They would return successful. Now, just before I keep going, I do want to give credit to the creator of the mod, Brett Santa 1917, also known as probably username, the proofreading, the playtesting, the borrowed code from some other mods, and the music that is present in this mod. There's a nice list of acknowledgements there, which you can pause the video if you want to have a look at. And there's a note from the developer, and this is their very first ever mod, and I think they did a really amazing job on it. It's just really great writing, really fun to play, as you're going to see. We're going to be playing as Smedley Butler, formerly Republican from Pennsylvania. The definition of a hero to the American people fighting tooth and nail to further the righteous causes of liberty and democracy. To the veterans they championed the leader of a movement and the loudest voice calling for their rights. To you and your followers in the National Emergency Council, so I guess we're more of a spirit of the NEC possibly rather than any specific individual. So he's our biggest asset and our biggest threat. He gained his fame from exceptional action in nearly every American-involved conflict from the 1898 to 1929, and he has pledged himself to the new regime for the sake of America's stability, supposedly. It's no small worry that was given the levers of power, Butler will not settle for being the puppet for long. So he's gradually shifting leftward since his retirement, coupled with his distaste for fascism and its sympathizers, could easily result in the former Marines sweeping the rug out from under you. So this descent into fascism could turn into a backfire and become a descent into socialism, or ascent, depending on who you ask. So his running mate is Richard Washburn Child. He's independent from Massachusetts. You can read the description. You watch in horror as the Russian Revolution saw constitutional democracy overthrown in favor of mob rule, parasitic socialism. So this man is quite clearly very fascistic, of the Mussolini streak. After propagandizing for Mussolini, so I'm assuming this guy was actually actively involved in fascist Italy, he returned to America in 1930, spreading the gospel of ultranationalism among angry masses. With Washington in the committee's hands, the presidency is only one unfortunate incident away. So we've got this dynamic of President Smedley Butler. He's a bit reluctant, and then we've got this very, very explicitly fascist vice president. So the first question is from the perspective of Coxey Sr., the Progressive Farmer Labour president. You watch from the Oval Office as the combined might of the American right descends on Washington, with the single aim of ending the government you and your ticket fought so hard to establish. There's no need to panic, Coxey smiles up at you warmly. These good men are just angry because of the rough deal the previous administration gave them. So that's quite idealistic. I'm sure if you sit down and dress them, they'll pack up and go home. I don't think that's going to happen. So we can get the Secret Service to drive us out. There's no way to convince him to move. Let's try his tactic. It's not going to happen. The next train to DC. Trains seem a bit risky. Violence. Um, I think I'm just tossing up between. I'm not trying to go for a specific route. I'm just doing a vibes-based playthrough. So we can go between, I think, trying to escape, or fighting for it. And I think I'm leaning toward fighting for it, because giving up America to fascists without a fight is not something I'm keen to do. Dash is the nearest phone. 15 minutes later, you and Coxie are escorted out at gunpoint. The traitorous officers. So I'm assuming the National Guard also betrayed the nation. Now we have the theme switch to Butler and Child. You stand below the Capitol building before a crowd of thousands eagerly awaiting the country's first steps into a new era. The American legions and civilians brave enough to join the march cheer you on. You feel Butler's eyes burning into the back of your skull as you repeat Justice Hughes' words back to him, sealing your fate as America's shepherd through these rough times. There's a sudden wave of anxiety through your body, but it dissipates the instant you see Dorothy's warm smile. Dorothy Child, your fourth wife. So we are actually playing as Child, as the fascistic vice president. So that's quite interesting. For years, oh yeah, you've got to give us speech. Times of great crisis, I pledge you, my friends, I will dedicate my time as your vice president to the important goal of getting Washington moving again. No more to poverty, no more to weak governments. A strong country deserves a strong state. Our government was unjustly seized by radical socialists. So these two are quite, this is quite partisan, I guess. Coolidge offered them nothing, Coxey promised them everything, only to give them nothing. This is just a bit of a yap. I think this just makes the most sense to me. We are going to reach across the aisle, conciliatory. And we can also have a look at the state of the nation. Looks like Congress is hostile. The NEC has a positive opinion. The populace thinks the similarities between you and Mussolini are non-existent. Foreign policy and how angry the left is with us. They're currently docile. So yeah, let's just try to start some reconciliation. The crowd isn't enthused, but it's not for them, of course. It's for the congressman. Butler too seems appeased and stays strictly on script, much to the appreciation of the rest of the NEC. We can look at the electoral map now. Generic Democrat ballot remains dominant in the solid South. So I can see the coalition that gave Farmer Labor the keys to the White House, um, the West, the Midwest, and New York State, generic Republicans in New England and Central America. I don't think it matters much where we visit right now. I'm just going to visit Pennsylvania. As legionnaires exit the capital, satisfied with the march's success, a different mob descends in their place: progressives, socialists. So they're protesting now, but they don't have time to organize, so it's a bit spontaneous, and it's not a very strong show of opposition. You can provoke them to violence. I'm not so keen on that. Let's just try and take a peaceful, conciliatory approach with this playthrough. Peacefully, seen as weak, sending National Guard. So this is both being violent. Um, Counter protests. Let's just reach out. Still don't allow, considering his imminent fate. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's. I guess there's been implications that the NEC is planning to actually assassinate Butler now that his use he's already been used up. They allow Butler's speech, albeit heavily modified, does the trick with the promise of free elections. 20th of July. Look up at the sky, pursing your lips as you brainstorm different ways to describe the weather. As a form of fiction writer, it should come easily to you, but you find yourself unable to draft an elegant prose in your mind. Maybe it's because of how loud Butler is. Yes, almost certainly the old man is throwing you off his game with his preaching. The congregation of veterans are eating it up as usual, but of course they would. You let your eyes wander, noting every single face in the crowd and their sickening smiles. He sticks out like a sore thumb, the one man not smiling. His revolver glints in the sun as he retrieves it from his coat and points it at the president. So the man who survived countless wars was felt in a time of peace. Butler's casket has marched through the streets of the capital draped in the American flag as mourners line the street. 100 somber faces stare back at you as you step up to the pulpit in the Washington National Cathedral for your first speech as President of the United States. So we are now President. The office of the Vice President is vacant. You clear your throat. My fellow Americans, today we gathered together to mourn a national hero who was murdered in an act of treason. The man behind this act was an anarchist and anti-fascist who we believe targeted Butler as part of a foreign-backed conspiracy to establish a socialist dictatorship in America. Chorus of gasps echo through the cathedral. Your eyes briefly meet J. Edgar Hoover, and he flashes you a barely perceptible smile. So I think that's a confirmation that Hoover was notorious in real life as well. In our timeline, he was a very powerful FBI head of the FBI. He has no qualms doing the committee's dirty work. So I think that's basically a confirmation that it was actually us. We murdered Butler because he was too much of a danger to the NEC. Death of Butler has been the last straw for many on the left. So we can have a look at the State of the Nation again. Congress is willing to work with us. Um, it does say the left is still docile, but I guess for whatever reason, the riots have broken out across much of the West Coast and the Steel Belt. Floyd Olson, the current farmer Labor governor of Minnesota, has declared open opposition. Um, so we've got one state that's essentially seceding, not seceding from this nation, but actively opposing us. So I think this is going to, yeah, definitely got to invoke the Insurrection Act to basically crush Minnesota. Um, but I'm not sure if, yeah, I don't know if you trust the Minnesota National Guard, so send some of the American Legion as well. So the governor, as I thought, Memphis legions are devoutly loyal and strict to the state with ease. So Olsen is arrested, and the regional riots fizzle out on their own. We are hailed as a strong and decisive leader. So the maps changed, farmer labor has basically disappeared as an electoral force. It is still just a question between generic Republicans and Democrats, but we're on the up and up. And I think I guess we are going to try, as I said before, we're going to try and be um, conciliatory, but the South is probably our biggest possible breakthrough. Accusation of socialist conspiracy. Congress has formed the De Stickstein committee to investigate what the media has dubbed the union plot. So we have got, I guess, we're accusing the unions. So it's clearly an attempt to break up the unions with falsely linking them to the riots. So I guess, oh, and actually not just unions, it looks like. Um, oh, just any critics. Oh, that's convenient. We can target the liberal wing of the Democrats, the liberal wing of the Republicans, or we can not take anyone out except the PFLA. I think that's what we're going to do. As I said, conciliatory. Liberals breathe easier. They remain silent. Silent for now. I did not speak out. There was no one left to speak for me. And how's the electoral map looking now? Still the same. And just a quick look at the state of the nation. Congress is even more willing to work with us. That's nice. No secret that the American Legion has quickly become the informal paramilitary of your administration. Butler Dead and his replacement Murphy set to ascend to the position of vice president in mere days. The organization needs a new national commander. I see. So there's now going to be elections for the national commander of the NEC. And our choices are, I think, I'm not entirely sure if I think this is just our input, so I don't think we definitely becomes that person if we select them. So I guess our choices are Hanford McNider, former senior official, important asset in matters more both military and diplomacy. Seems like a bit neutral. Oh, Mosley is a hardline fascist. Um, I guess it's just a coincidence that his name is the same as Oswald Mosley, who was also a hardline fascist in Britain. And of course, oh, sorry, not MacArthur, Patton was also a fascist in real life. Um, but here it looks like he's a headstrong conservative here. I think between the choices of neutral, fascist, I'm going to go with neutral. He's reluctant to accept the offer. The rest of the NEC is soldiers his fears. Sure enough, McNider is elected. Good. Um, let's just keep using New York. May have taken longer than hoped due to a couple of roadblocks from liberals, but Congress has confirmed your pick as Vice President, Grayson Murphy. Brilliant. He grants you many of the upsides of Smedley Butler and Herbert Hoover, but without the ideological disagreements. Very nice. Bit of a nothing burger. Despite the suffocating gridlock that defined their short time in power, the Cox administration managed to pass a small number of radical reforms, which caused discontent among the upper classes. So we should probably undo those. Um, I guess I'm going to be a secret socialist and try and do minimum damage to Coxey's achievements. So we can either unnationalize railways, decrease corporate tax, get rid of antitrust laws, or that seems good. We don't actually do anything to Coxey's achievements. We're just going to get rid of the Smoot-Hawley Act, the massive tariff hike. I think lower tariffs will be better for the economy, so maybe I'll just go with that. Almost falls apart. Great. Great. So the global market slowly rises from its grave. After weeks of hearings, arguments, and obsessive news coverage, the committee will be ending their investigation of the union plot. Oh, we're going to sentence the former president. Had them brought in jail. As I said, we're going to go with the most peaceful options, which I think is a bit dangerous. They're planning to run from prison. Wow. Um, yeah, it's a bit dangerous. I think what I'm doing. The NEC might realize I'm being a secret socialist and get rid of me. Congress is still willing to work with us. We're isolationists. It looks like they still have a positive opinion, so that's fine. The fabrication of the union plot has rendered the threat of a progressive counterclaim impossible. There's still popular resistance. The committee wants just purge everyone, and we're going to be the tiebreaker, so let's go with the more sane option. Not too extra legal. Crackdowns have little effect, chipping away to popular support through the media. Let's just go with a perfect weapon to do this. Or just go through the media. After all, verbal attacks are going to be less damaging than. Wow, that's a lot of. American society is coated in the gasoline of hatred. Kind of regret doing that now, but it was a bad option among bad options. Domestic unrest. It seems Bush relays a number of worrying reports from China. Who is Bush? Prescott Bush, Secretary of State. Okay. Civil war in Xinjiang has notable of SRL intervention. So the Soviet Republics of Labor. This is this timeline's version of the Soviet Union. Um, I'm not entirely. I don't know if it's revealed who leads it. I'm just gonna assume that it's instead of Stalin, maybe Trotsky won the power struggle, but it's basically the Soviet Union. Just a more left, even more left-wing version of it, it seems. The Soviets declared open war on the neutral Shaanxi clique, so the Soviets are intervening in the Chinese Civil War. Um, yeah, just keep isolationist. Doesn't really matter, and it's in line with public opinion. So and plus again, secret socialism, not intervening helps spread the SRL around in China. Backroom negotiations have come to fruition as us and our allies announced the American Liberty League, all a coalition of conservatives, isolationists, and wannabe demagogues. So this is going to be the party that's going to compete with the Democrats and Republicans. Crack this. So now we can choose to focus on the solid South. Um, hand it to the rich. Um, try to go. Okay, try to go for Catholics. So rather than the South, Northern Democratic support. America first, isolationism. I think I'm just gonna crack the solid South. So pretty close to overtaking the Democrats in a few states, but they are still. It's not, I mean, it's not called the solid South for nothing. But we are ahead in quite a few states actually. We've got 166 electoral votes, and we are first in the popular vote, so that's all very positive. Various policies that your new party has chosen to espouse. Immigration is the most pressing. So we can choose to end East Asian immigration. We can choose to, Jesus Christ, take into account advancements in eugenics. It's a pseudoscience, guys. Don't even use science in describing it. It's just disgusting racism. Tightening up the borders, loosen restrictions. Yeah, let's just. I mean, it's still racist, but it seems like the best choice out of the three. Reluctant Johnson, you managed to negotiate a sufficient compromise. So in exchange for, oh, well, that's, yeah, not exactly a big fan of that. Okay, polls. And we are going to end at question 20, by the way, because I'm planning to split the videos into two parts from now. So that'll be at the end of episode 1. Just have a quick look. All the stats seem okay, except Congress is hostile again. Look at those labor disputes spread like wildfire. More riots and strikes. So we can contact strike breakers. Using American Legion. Mandatory government oversight of unions. I mean, none of them are good, but I'll go with strike breakers, I guess. It seems like slightly better than the other ones. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Oh well, it is what it is. I mean, this is you are playing as a fascist party essentially. So there's only so much. There's only so positive you can be. The strikes were not just a nuisance, but a wake-up call. So we gotta fix the Great Depression, basically. Our current strategy is not working. No government intervention. Tax cuts. Very concerning. A boost as much as possible. Um, any sort of government intervention. Tax cuts. Regular self-managed austerity. I think it's something public works. Let's just go with public works. I don't know if they're going to stop me from um, reluctantly agrees. Okay, they did agree to have public works, national employment project. That's grateful ones from newly hired government workers. Hey, we did something positive, I guess. Get people some jobs. How did the people? Fairly popular. Yeah, 31%. Um, After much internal deliberation, the NEC has come to the conclusion that the threat the SRL poses is great enough. The USA has to break neutrality. So what we're gonna do is number of options. We can basically support the German Empire. It's a very interesting timeline. I do wish we got a bit more deeper context on exactly what the world looks like, because this is making it sound like the Kaiserreich never collapsed. Um, a third of their country is communist murderers. So it looks like Germany is split into three somehow. So yeah, it's a bit strange. I would like to know more about the international law. Um, don't go abroad. Yeah, let's just not go abroad. But the NEC is furious. I wonder what that looks like in the actual stats. They still have a positive opinion. So. The old juvenile party machinery has kicked into high gear with the goal of trouncing the Republicans and Democrats. Where to go? Northeast, deep south. Why focus on a single region? Yeah, why not? Let's go everywhere. We are called all. We may as well go with all the states. Um, so we've managed to crack a few. I know there's still Democrats. It's a bit hard to distinguish the grey color from the light blue. Um, Back to game. The Dust Bowl has continued to ravage the farmlands, further destroying the livelihoods of thousands of farmers, stabilizing food prices, a free market, soil conservation. Yeah, let's just go with what Coxie was doing. Is overwhelming bipartisan approval. So hey, got it through again. So I think we're gonna wrap up the episode there on question 21. So what have we done so far? We've managed to basically dominate America. All the different centers of power seem to be on our side. The left is docile, and we seem to be fairly popular across America, fixing the Great Depression, and continuing to try to secretly sabotage the emergency committee's efforts. See you next time.